Okay, welcome back to another edition of Cannabis in Canada. I'm outside now. We're covering the MMPR conference, and that's why I'm dressed up. And there's a protester here today named Anthony. Now, I always love coming out and checking out the protesters because I'm an activist, and I want to know what their story is and what it is that they're protesting. And oddly enough, because I mean, I have a preserved license under the MMPR now, and what it is here is that Anthony actually went to one of the best theme parks here in Ontario, being Canada's Wonderland, and he presented what Peace Naturals, which is a receipt for his medicine that he bought here. It's clearly a receipt in his own name. There's nothing else you're provided. You're not provided a card like you were under the MMAD, the Medical Marijuana Access Division, and governing MMAR, Medical Marijuana Access Regulations. So ultimately what's happened here is I'm gonna let Anthony fill us in more, but the police detained Anthony because this is your medical information now. You don't have a license per se, you have a prescription. And unfortunately, I guess the security and apparently York Regional Police aren't up to date on the law. Let's talk about this, Anthony.
Sure. So while I was at Canada's Wonderland, I was medicating up on the hill, and I had security approach me, and they basically said, "What are you doing? You're not allowed to do that here. Can you put that out?" I explained I was medical, and then I showed them my documentation, like you had said. They didn't believe it. They didn't believe it was legitimate, so they detained me, called the New York Region Police, who also didn't believe that it was legitimate, to believe my paperwork was legitimate. And so they brought me back to their holding cells where they detained me for a number of hours.
So they detained you with the police, York Regional Police, seen this receipt and detained you?
Yeah.
Lawyers who are watching, medical patient was detained with a receipt from Peace Naturals for his medicine by York Regional Police. It's one thing for Canada's Wonderland's security we're near an airport, everybody, that's what's going on. Anyway, Canada's Wonderland security to not address this is one thing because they're not expected to know the law. But York Regional Police should know the new MMPR and this multi-billion-dollar industry that's going on in it. And most importantly, they shouldn't be locking up medical marijuana patients such as Anthony with a receipt. I mean, he's got his medicine here. I can't see anything other than, I mean, cross-referencing his ID, where myself, even as a security guard, would want to even attempt to intervene. What else happened, Anthony?
So after being detained by York Region Police, they eventually released me late in the night, and then I had a court date. So at that court date, I was expecting to go in, show the judge, or show the Crown, rather, my documentation, and then for them, since they're the ones that enforce the laws essentially to the fullest. So I would have figured going to court, the courts being the ones that enforce the laws would be aware of the MMPR regulations, and it would have been dropped no problem. But since then, I've been to the courts. I think I've had 4 or 5 appearances, and it's actually gotten to the point where I've got a pretrial date now. So I've got the pretrial date, and if the judge...
You mean you're going to court over this?
Yeah.
Do you have an attorney?
No.
Paul Lewin, if you're watching, anybody who knows Paul, please contact Paul and have him get in touch with Anthony. Check out what's going on here. I haven't seen all the particulars, but it's an A+B thing. He has a receipt. There is no marijuana license under the MMPR. And if you're going to lock a medical marijuana patients up like you did with Chris Earns in Nova Scotia, Anthony in Toronto, Reg out in BC, you want to keep locking us up, I just say lawsuit, man. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not qualified to tell you what to do, aside from suggest to get a lawyer at this point.
Yeah.
And to potentially sue Canada's Wonderland security for what they did to you. You supplied medical evidence, the best possible medical evidence you could supply, from what I'm hearing, you know, based on what you've told me. And yeah, I would highly suggest that you look into potentially a human rights violation and get a hold of an attorney in that respect and continue protesting. And I endorse you, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Medical patients, activists, we're either being bought by the licensed producers or locked up by the RCs. There's a problem going on in Canada. I don't care what people say, we're going to continue talking about it until maybe I'm sharing a cell with Anthony. But whatever the case may be, I certainly don't endorse medical patients being locked up who provide what limited medical proof they can. When Canada holds there's no medical value to marijuana, shit's backwards. We'll see you in the next show. Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.